Well, my name is Quentin Gray, for people that want to know my name. I started acting when I was 15 years old, so I've been on a lot of film sets and stuff. So the reason I wanted to get into filmmaking is because I want to expand my horizons as a actor, so I could be like, multitasking and multi-layered, that I can do a bunch of things. And another reason is just simply because there's a lot of projects that I'm just interested in, that I want to get off the ground, and I'm just interested as maybe just a fan of films, of seeing that I don't get to see a lot. So
Well, I've always been fascinated with filmmaking ever since I was a child. And I got inspired to write my screenplay from a job I had back in 1988. I was a security guard in an indoor flea market. And it's been my dream for such a long time. And I'm so very happy.
My name's Richard Fish. I am a filmmaker. You notice my hesitation there is because I have this hang-ups about it. Am I a filmmaker? Yes, I'm a person who makes films. But it's kind of hard to think, oh, am I a filmmaker when I'm not able to make a living from filmmaking? So am I a filmmaker? Yes, I'm a filmmaker.
Hi, my name is Donna Marie Vaughn, and I am primarily a writer and director for film. Well, I actually started in the theater. I was writing plays and they were being produced, and I had an idea for a story that I realized that I couldn't do it on a stage. It was just too complicated, had too many locations. And so we set out to make a movie about it. And so then I got into the film world. And then I got involved with some people from the Buffalo Movie and Video Makers, worked on their films. And the way that we worked it back then was if you worked on their films, then they would help you with your film, sort of like a collaboration of labor and talent. And from there, I've just helped on films and have worked on some of my own things.
My name is Bill Murray the third. I'm a local director, cinematographer, editor, filmmaker. I got my start about last year, maybe a little bit before 1 year ago. I decided that I couldn't not be a filmmaker for the rest of my life. I had to go out there and try. So I wrote Bury It, my first short film, shot it with my father, who was my cameraman. I directed, acted, cinematographer, editor, and he was my cameraman for me, my assistant director. And he killed it.
Yeah, my name is Jeremiah Soto Ramirez. I'm the owner of 1620 Movies and the main admin of Buffalo, New York Movies Casting and Content. I come from Buffalo. I'm a native to Buffalo. So I started filmmaking generally about 3 years ago, actually. I was always a writer, so I used to write for, a majority of my life, but I decided at some point to make, film to be the medium instead of just writing.
My name is Terry Kimmel, and I'm currently the president of the Buffalo Movie Video Makers, or BMVM. This is currently my fourth year as president of BMVM. How did I get involved in the film industry? Well, I don't know if I'm actually involved in the film industry. Being president of BMVM is about the closest I am to any sort of regular connection to the local film industry. But it can go as far back as when I was involved with theater. I was involved with theater for a while, back in the 80s, going up into the early 90s. In fact, when I finished, I had worked behind the scenes on some shows for a number of years, and then I developed a very productive association with local actress and director Lisa Ludwig, who's currently the managing director of Shakespeare in Delaware Park. He said, name dropping. And we formed a sort of nomadic theater company called Freefall Productions, and we produced a few plays, and at the beginning I primarily directed, and Lisa was starred in them, and we both co-produced. So we had some pretty good success critically and with audiences with that. So that was kind of cool. Even though that isn't directly related to film, I think my associations with the local theater community kind of set my general way of working with things. Like, I'm interested in the arts. I was interested in theater a lot, and I went to a lot of theater, and I knew a lot of people, a lot of actors and stuff like that. So there was a lot of networking involved.
Mainly, I started with social media, and I got into like an education program through Full Sail University, cinematography course. So at first, I went to their videography course in Florida, where I learned more, hands-on experience, and then I switched over roles to the cinematography course, which is an online course. So my profession specifically is more on the cinematography side. I started my journey mainly through just shooting like more content like Instagram, social media stuff. But then as I got better with lighting and started getting intrigued by the more filmmaking side of things, I switched over. Recently created my movie company this year.
Yeah, I think filmmaker is a good word for it, because I like to act in other people's things. I like to act in my own things, but it's somehow more enjoyable acting when I didn't also write what makes in. But it's hard. It's fun, but it's so hard to make films.
It was kind of easy at first, but that's because a lot of the content that we want to create isn't finished yet. We've taken a lot of like very, very short films, commercials, social media promos, and events, so just recording more like client-based work. So that was pretty easy. All we did was go out, shoot, meet some people, find out who needed stuff. But to actually get the movie production stuff started has been a lot more difficult.
Well, actually, my biggest problem is writer's block, and that's why I hosted my own Shut Up and Write group. What we do is we go into a chat room that I created on Zoom, and I found it incredibly inspiring, because usually, as you know, writing is a very solitudinous avocation. You're doing it alone. And when you're in a Shut Up and Write group, you're able to get the vibe. You're using other people as your muses. I love it.
I think that the technology and cameras has come a tremendous forward motion with them. Again, I'm not real technical on the equipment end. I know that there are people out there that have $100,000 worth of audio. I have come to understand that there is a lot of understanding that you need to have when it comes to sound, because different microphones function different ways. So that was a learning curve as well. Being that I am not very technical, which is like an inside joke to all of my friends, I am going to probably consider it a master's class in not knowing what you should know before you film a feature. And that film has editing issues, camera issues, sound issues. So again, a big lesson in what not to do and what to know before you say action.
When you're an independent filmmaker, to have every single job, meaning you're the gaffer, you're the editor, you're the writer, you're the shot list guy, you're the camera operator, that's definitely the hardest part. It's being, like being able to stop and go and do a different job, stop that job and go to the next. It makes it to where now when you have actors that have day jobs, instead of being able to finish a film in say like 4 hours because I have a whole film crew, it makes it more complicated because I have so many jobs that a 4-hour shoot then becomes an 8-hour shoot, and it does slow down the time. I think that would be our biggest obstacle, along with locations. Locations would probably be the other challenge of Buffalo, New York, and financially how much it costs to rent spaces and get permits.
In any film that you make, I think there's going to be some challenges in terms of either getting your schedule cleared along with whoever else is helping you with it, and getting your schedules synced up to work on it, to getting locations, to getting money together for it, to getting all the stuff needed to make a film.
I don't want to give because there's technical things, but everyone has technical things, like not knowing about sound or lights or any of that. But I think the hardest thing for me is asking people for help because I always like to feel like I can do everything for myself, but you can't. And so it's not just I don't want to put people out, it's also that I'm not very good at saying, I'm the boss, you will do this just because I say so. Like, I have to find a way to relate to people and make it a shared goal so that people are working on my project because they want to. And it's really weird because I feel like most people actually do want to work on as many films as they can and help each other out. I just had a bit of a weird, I don't know, self-conscious thing about that.
The hardest part of the film industry is just learning the business side because going in, you're wide-eyed and think of an artist and you think, oh, all I need is an agent and everything will be fine. But it's a lot more to it than that. It's like you got to get headshots, you got to build your resume, you got to have know your personal branding. Like like as much as we like it, we can't play every character, even though we like to. It's like we gotta know specific characters that we can play and we can brand ourselves at.
Well, I'm almost constantly thinking in one of the lanes that are open in my brain of either an idea that I'm actively working on, I can come across something or think of something that starts in a whole nother lane being opened. I think creative people in general are always thinking creatively. So I'm constantly have a lane or 2 or 12 open in my brain thinking creative projects. And that could be anything from a line of dialogue that I thought would work really well in something I'm thinking of, or a location that I see when I'm driving that I think, wow, that would really fit for this project. And so I think creative people in general, and I know for me particularly, I always am multitasking creative things in my brain.
I think the biggest thing is finances. Obviously, finances are a tool in filmmaking, and it's the hardest one to get. So, location scouting is probably the most difficult because Buffalo, even though it's a good film area, I think a lot of the films that have come out of here have been more higher budget films and stuff like that. And a lot of the low budget filmmakers struggle to find locations, struggle to get the budgets they need to get permits and stuff like that. So I would say that has been my biggest hurdle in making a lot of my short films is having, the places that I do want to shoot in are too expensive. And some of the locations that I, have been in, just probably not the safest places. And it's okay. Like we end up getting work done, but we do feel like we want a more bigger plethora of locations to scout. So
I think really thoroughly understanding the cinematography would have helped tremendously. When you are an independent, low budget filmmaker, you tend to rely on the people that you can get to work, and they bring the cameras that they are most used to. What I didn't understand, and which I clearly understand now, is that just like cars, cameras come in different models and different manufacturers, and they do not necessarily work together after they have filmed. So therefore, I have footage from different cameras that don't necessarily talk to or fit with footage from other cameras.
No, I actually think it's really easy. And what's interesting is here locally, I think there's a lot of people who are helping each other out and interested in helping each other's projects. I don't know if that's a Buffalo thing or if it's a USA thing, but I think that at least the people I've met have been a lot more open to just kind of collaborating because they're like, oh yeah, that'll be fun. Whereas I think at home, not everyone, but quite a few people who I'd reach out to, they would either think, no, I'm above that, I'm a serious filmmaker, or they would kind of think, oh, yeah, no, you're weird, why are you doing that? And finding the kind of in-between people who want to make films because it's a fun thing to do and they just want to be involved, I found a little bit harder. That's not to say I didn't know people in England that were doing that. I just think it's been easier here somehow.
Figure out what other aspects of the place I can use. So, if you find a place, keep that in mind. Maybe it's good to know people. it's possible. Look to, some people are good at finding locations too. That's the best I can think of to tell you. Sorry. Maybe do some Google searches if you're looking for a specific place, and that might at least give you uh, some hints to finding some things. But get to know filmmakers, see what places they find out how creative they are. I know Taylor Martin, again, going to her, she tries to find at least one really interesting location for her film, but she sends out kind of like word out that she's going to be making a film. So if anybody knows any cool places, let her know. So before she even knows what her story is, I mean, she'll just figure out how to utilize it some way, So it's a combination of finding specific ones or just knowing a cool place and then trying to figure out how to use it for your projects. So be open to stuff, be a network.
Advice that I would give a filmmaker starting out would be to just get out there and start doing it. Start making films. Start working on your friends' films. There's no magic recipe to it, but start working on them, getting experience, and getting them done.
Before you make your own film, work on some other people's films. Volunteer as a production assistant, go out and be a background actor if acting is your thing. Get to know the people, really clearly understand what it takes to make a film, because it is not an easy task. It involves a lot of pre-production, it involves a lot of production, and it involves a lot of post-production. It is not just as simple as turning on a camera, filming something, and then editing it quickly and you're done.
No, networking has never, crossed my mind when it came to like becoming a professional actor, because I just figured you just go in and audition and things like that. But no, they always tell you it's not what you know, it's who you know. So sometimes you have to go in and bump heads with people, get to know people, be friendly and be cordial when it comes to people. And being an introvert is like that's terrifying. But that's something you have to learn. You have to be, you know, very good and cordial, so people will want to work with you and people want to, you know, be with do films with you.
There's the normal. I mean, there's really not obstacles. I would say just things to get done. I mean, some people might not be able to get a good crew, but I've gone out there and I've worked with some awesome people and have grabbed a good crew. I've been lucky with amazing cast members and actors that I've met early on that I love working with. I know a lot of different locations and people to supply me with locations, so that hasn't really been an obstacle.
And then what happens is once you start deciding you make your film, then the big problem is you figure out what your problems are, what the problems are that are in the way of solving, of achieving your goal of making the film. Whether it's not getting your ass in front of a computer to write and finish your script, or trying to find people that are willing to set time aside to film your thing. All that stuff is problem solving, trying to find the right people, trying to find the right sets, all that stuff. And if you have a problem with it, then you have to find another solution or a solution to your original goal.
My plans as a filmmaker are to continue to tell stories through filmmaking, cinematography, working into longer shorts, better shorts, eventually probably feature films. But I each day I just want to get up and make my next film better, and that's enough to guide me on the next trajectory.
I think the best advice I can give a filmmaker is to pick the thing or two that you feel is your passion. If that passion is writing, then really, really work on that craft. If your passion is directing, work on that craft. If your passion is editing, work on that. Take the thing you want to know or that you do the best and make it, elevate it to the absolute best that it can be.
One of the things recently I've been watching is over and over again are the episodes on Disney Plus of the beginnings of Industrial Light and Magic. And it's called Light and Magic. And in it, George Lucas says something to the effect of, the biggest thing you need as a filmmaker is persistence. And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, talent helps, connections helps, ideas, etc., like that. But I know the hardest thing to making any sort of film is getting off your butt and doing it. And then especially then, depending on how ambitious you want your project to be, like depending on like how many elements you want to throw in there, whatever sort of anything that you specifically want to do in your film, whatever ideas you have in your film. I think the biggest thing is just having the persistence to try to follow through on those ideas.
I mean, that's all true, but obviously that it doesn't apply to most people. I think just make a film, and the hardest thing is getting over yourself, because you're your own worst critic, and I think the person that's really going to stop you from making a film is you, because you'll go, oh, that's too hard, or I don't have the right camera, or I don't know people who can act, or I'm not a good writer, or whatever it is. And it's like, just keep doing it until you get good. I mean, it's like anything else. It's like learning a language. No one wakes up speaking French. You have to start by going like je m'appelle, you know, and then practice, and you keep learning. I mean, I'm not where I would like to be with filmmaking. I just made a film. I like the film, but you know, I'm not directing movies in Hollywood.
You have to do it. Like, as a filmmaker, it's in you. If it's in you, it's in you, and you're not going to be able to get rid of it. And you have to do it. And it's not something that's going to be easy. So I think a lot of people, even including myself, when I first thought about filmmaking, you know, oh, I have a camera, thinking that everybody's going to show up. And I always thought that, you know, if I can depend on my friends to show up and stuff like that. But, you know, things go wrong all the time. So for me, it's just like...
The other piece of advice that I will tell anybody creative is, you will fail. Understand it now, but take it as a lesson. Everything does not fall into place. Everything costs more than you thought it was. People will pull out at the last minute. They will disappoint you. You're going to have to just roll with those punches, and you're going to have to find a way to work around the obstacles that occur. So you definitely should involve yourself in the field in any way that you can before you go out and make your own film.
Like, read a lot. It's because there's so much details and nuance the film industry and filmmaking and acting and stuff, like little details that probably you never even thought about, but you have to, you know, take into consideration if you're going to be in a career like this. Like, just for example, my example, you know, looking up, reading about acting.
Well, you've got to be able to accept constructive criticism. It's part of the creative process. All first-time writers, they all have this bubble. They write something for the very first time, which is probably their first or second draft, and then they get in their minds that it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Don't get discouraged. You have to have your work critiqued by your peers, and it's got to be your peers, because they're able to see things that your friends and family can't. You have to have fresh eyes, look at the page, and point out legitimate inconsistencies. There's two forms of criticism. There's subjective criticism, where they don't like it for whatever reason, and there's objective criticism. Objective criticism is when there's something with the formatting, or you think I put, and you as the author have to be able to determine what you want to take and what you want to give. But unfortunately, taking criticism is a necessary part of the creative process. You have to have intestinal fortitude. Otherwise, you're not going to grow as a writer.
Yeah, you got to do it. You got to do it, because if it's in you, it's going to drive you nuts if you don't. Your mind, if you're a filmmaker, you're probably the type of creative where these things happen in your mind regardless. And to exhaust yourself by actually trying to achieve them, it sharpens you. And it gets all of that chaos in your head, it gets it out into the real world, and then you become sharper, you become a better person, you become more compassionate. You know, and as I struggled as a filmmaker to gather people and to do the visions that I want to create. When it does happen, it leaves you with a sense of family. So, and friendship with the people that you film with. So that community is worth its weight in gold. And even if you are a broke filmmaker for the rest of your life, the projects that you finish, I mean, there's nothing better than sitting there and watching your own short film or your own film like 100 times in a row, because you're just so proud of yourself. So you have to do it. If it's in you, you have to do it, and do it quickly. You know, don't sit here and wait. Don't ask permission. I think as filmmakers, you do have to realize that you have to assert yourself. You have to be able to care enough about your own visions and passions to push yourself, and to even get people to listen to you sometimes and take yourself seriously is what I'm really trying to say. So if you want to take yourself seriously, this is a great field to be in, and to learn from, and to be able to even check your own self to see how much you could grow. So
I'm still in the midst of filmmaking and becoming a filmmaker, so if I run into more obstacles, I would let you know.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joe Labasco. I've lived in West New York for about 13 years. I've been a member of BMVMM for about 6 years. They're fantastic. And I'm honored to be interviewed for Brad's short film documentary. I hope he wins the first prize. And thank you for letting me be part of your documentary.
Self-promotion wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But we have a Facebook group that you could look at called Buffalo, New York Movies Casting and Content. That Facebook group is growing. I think we've got about 1,200 members since October. And the whole point of it is we have this guides tab. And essentially, I felt like it would be really cool to have a one-stop shop for all filmmaking needs. So if you're a producer, you could go onto this, go to a guides tab, and look at all these headshots of actors, headshots and cinematography work, drone pilots, makeup artists, hairstylists, everything that you can imagine, even props and location. We're trying to get bigger. So you could literally go in and see people who already have a location that they're okay with people shooting at, and you can just check out what they have. That one's small right now, but we're trying to get that one to be a lot bigger. So go to that group, follow that group, get in there. And then also we're opening up a film studio, more specifically to start off a sound stage. So when we have a sound stage available, we can build sets. We can help people with their scripts. Essentially, myself, I own my own film production company. So, we have cameras in-house, we have camera cranes, we have drones, we have lighting, we have everything that you can possibly need to film your own film. So we're trying to make film easier and more affordable for everybody.